But let's move on to our next topic, the first topic, which is what is the current state of mining? A lot has happened in the last few months between the halvings, between flooding in China, between announcements of major investment in the United States. The mining industry is never really stagnant, but there seems to be really just pockets of information, and it's kind of hard to tap it. So I figured that you guys know best, and be good to get a refresh from chatting with y'all. Let's start with Kristy. For you, what is the state of mining today?
It is the time of institutions, man. 2020 is all about institutions. We have DCG's Foundry that's just rolled up. We're having more and more entities like Core Scientific, Layer 1, Northern Data that are coming in with these big investments solely dedicated to Bitcoin mining. And all of these institutions are looking at, alternate ways to treat Bitcoin mining, not just as, consistent revenue generation, but Layer 1 is playing around with the concept of the Bitcoin battery, where they're actually an energy provider on the ERCOT grid. So it is, it's the time of institutions. This is what we dreamed about back in 2010, Bitcoin mining eventually becoming. So it's pretty exciting.
So institutional mining is coming. Let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Alex, you're kind of running, probably not an institutional mining operation. Can you kind of talk about what's the state of mining for you?
Yeah, for me, the last few weeks really has been tough. Domestically, I've kind of stopped moving machines into the United States just because of the tariff situation. It's been tough, and I'm getting better rates in China. So I have two mining operations in China. The one in Sichuan was down for about 10 days, which was a bummer from the mining. But Yunnan province has been fine. I'm certainly not anywhere close to institutional level, but I'd like to think that my little piece of the mining world is growing as often as possible. But definitely with the flooding has been pretty crazy. And, I really feel bad for those guys because they send me videos on WeChat. It's crazy how bad it is.
Give us an idea, a visual of what you're seeing.
Can I just show you on my phone?
It might be easier to describe it, but maybe while you're figuring it out, let's jump to Elsa, who might be a little bit more intimate to what's happening in China. What's the state of mining from your perspective, Elsa?
Yeah, it is.
It's a ripper.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so maybe the past for the last 2 weeks, we see that the hash rate of total network, it has dropped like 20 E, I guess, at that time. So because of the flooding, but we also see them some videos about that there's some flooding and buried mining farms. But actually, that is quite small. It's a pretty small possibilities for that. But most of the mining farms did have influenced a lot in Sichuan because of their internet was cut because of the flooding. Yeah. So, but it can be resumed very soon. So that's why you could see that the hash rate just increased again because they have fixed the network.
Yeah. Gotcha. So it wasn't like farms getting flooded, but rather like infrastructure, like the internet went down, and that affected the hash rate. Got it. That makes sense. So Steve just rejoined the call. Steve, why don't you introduce yourself, and then you can jump straight into what is the state of mining today from your perspective of the mining world?
Yeah, my phone, I'm still on cellular, but I was outside. My phone just blew up, so I had to come inside. Yeah, my name's Steve. I am the owner of Upstream Data. We just do oil field mining and build data centers and that kind of thing. So what is the state of mining today? Very difficult, extremely difficult. I don't know, revenues are not as exciting as they've been in the past per kilowatt hour, but there's a lot of innovation going on, and I think those of us who can get through these difficult times will be well positioned as things pick up. So.
Okay. Let's go to Leo. I mean, I know you spend a lot of time like researching what's happening in mining. What's the current state of mining today?
Yeah, so the short-term news, I think everyone's aware. The flooding in China, that's pretty exciting. There are some new machines coming out, or rumors about new machines coming out, and I think a longer-term trend, I think, is more significant in the past couple months. That's developing is the connection between the mining industry as well as the finance industry. We're seeing more institutions, more companies that are willing to lend to miners using machines or coins as collaterals. In my personal experience, just even 6 months ago, it was very difficult to get to get loans with machines as machines themselves as collateral. Most lenders would want a piece of your land, or the equity of the facility itself. So I think more financial institutions are open to this kind of collaborations, and more innovative type of structured products are happening with between pools and exchanges. I think we're going to see more liquidity providers try to get in front of miners more directly. I think we'll see some of the more products that try to some extent virtualizes hash rate. Yeah, but overall, I think a big trend is the development of hash power capital markets.
Yeah, that's something that Ethan Vera and the guys from why am I blanking out on the mining pool?
Luxor.
Yeah, on Luxor pool. They talk about that a lot. Jesse, why don't you jump in here from your perspective? What's the state of mining today?
I think Kristy hit it on the head with it's institutional. We're seeing a transition from mining being sort of on a smaller scale to being hyperscale. I mean, it's the same sort of trend that you're seeing in the traditional data center industry, where you get a lot of economies of scale for going bigger. And in mining, that's just as true, if not more so.
Gotcha. I mean, anyone else want to comment on what's being said? Is it really just like, I mean, I guess we could talk about the DCG news here. Any comments on that announcement, and what does that mean for mining in North America?
So as someone who worked with Mike Coyer, like, I'm incredibly excited for what he has been working on in the pipelines. Foundry has already funded quite a large amount of the mining equipment in North America. They're already working with a lot of mining pools. They've been building this in stealth for close to a year. I think it's closer to 9 months, actually. I think what this is going to offer is, anyone who is curious about mining can work with, through the network of the DCG companies. They can work with, they can work with Grayscale to put over some of their investment into mining. They can get curious with the staking. They can get access to DeFi exposure. And, if they have any concerns about where to get mining equipment, which provider to host with, Foundry is building themselves up to be this one turnkey solution targeted specifically for institutions. That is exciting. It's a great way to scale Bitcoin and get people who have long-term commitments in mind with the network. So I'm excited for that.
Is this bad for Bitcoin, that it's just going to be institutions and all this money pouring in?
At some point, so the thing with proof of work networks is at some point it turns from home mining to more of the institutional investors. As long as they are sufficiently distributed, so they're not all just clustered in North Carolina or on the one energy grid, you're still getting access to your decentralization. And institutional investors are not going to go and perform 51% attacks. They're not going to do hostile takeovers. They are not going to do anything that harms their own investment. If anything, institutional investors are incredibly logical and a lot easier to work with, as opposed to some of the scrappier home mining operations that might have their own agenda. So I don't think this is bad for Bitcoin at all. I think it's really good for Bitcoin. I have just said Bitcoin so many times, I don't even remember if we went through the rules.